More forcefully.
Howler.
Roll call for the City Council meeting of July 6th at 9 a.m. Ms. Allen, Mr. Brzezinski, Ms. Flores, Mr. Keys, Mr. Nelson, Mr. Troop, Mr. Witherspoon. Please.
We will have our moments of silence, once again remembering innocent people who were killed in Highland Park.
Moment of silence, please. Dear Heavenly Father, we come before you today, first of all, thankful, O Lord, that you had gathered us in these chambers today. And we just ask that you, by your Spirit, help us to make good decisions and prudent decisions on behalf of the residents and the citizens of Erie, PA. And we just ask you to be with all those who are bereaved, and a prayer for our nation and against violence and against mass violence especially. We ask this in your name. Amen.
Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Motion to accept the minutes of the Wednesday, June 15th, 2022 City Council meeting and bills for payment on July 8th and July 15th, 2022. Mr. Brzezinski, Ms. Flores, Mr. Keys, Mr. Nelson, Mr. Troop, Mr. Witherspoon, Ms. Allen.
Thanks, everyone, for coming today. As you may have noticed in the last couple of months, we've used the presentation portion of this meeting to try to do a better job of informing the community about things that are going on that matter to you and also matter to council. At the last meeting, I had proposed that we do periodic updates playing off of that theme from the sign that Brother D developed. A safe community begins with me. And the police chief and I have been talking for weeks about how to inform the community and council, give you some updates on what's happened with body-worn cameras. So I thank the chief and his command staff for being here today to do a short presentation, which we think will help to improve that communication that we know is so important. We're in an era where we have very often small areas where we get our information from. The more we can do to share information, I think the better off we'll be. So thank you, Chief.
Thank you, President Allen, and thank you, Council, for letting me speak this morning. This was a little bit here, background, the body cameras. When Mayor Schember began in 2018, he made it clear, as well as the previous council, that body cameras were wanted for the police department. We spent a year and a half working on that project. We had a group of volunteer officers that met every other week to go through the problems and suggestions that helped us devise this. We knew that the national trend, local incidents, the mayor had made a promise, and myself as chief all agreed that body cameras were needed. We wanted to that our use of force incidents would be reduced, that prosecution and convictions would be simplified, we'd reduce aggressiveness on both sides, reduce complaints against officers, and improve professionalism. I can tell you that the statistics that the inspector has done, and we talked briefly in council prior to this, was that over the past 6 years, he took the 5 years before body cameras, and we averaged that out each year, how many complaints per year, And then we took the first year of body cameras. We saw a 66% decrease in complaints by citizens against officers. Now, the committee that was put together were line officers, command staff, the inspector, members of the Detective Bureau, the training unit, and the FOP. 17 members represented 10% of the department. Our model policies that we pulled out were from Philadelphia and Pennsylvania because they're largest cities in Pennsylvania. They follow the same state law. We knew that their policies would be good. We also grabbed policies from Tempe, Arizona, Lincoln, Nebraska, and Davenport, Iowa. We looked at guidelines for best practices for implementing a body-worn camera project. The Department of Justice and the Executive Research Forum had information because we're not the first department to go through this. Body cams have been around a while. So we used all the resources that we had out there. The Bureau of Justice Administration had a grant guideline and scorecard we followed. Pennsylvania Commission on Crime and Delinquency, Pennsylvania Bulletin, PA state law, Chiefs of Police model policy, the FOP model policy, the ACLU statements, and the New Jersey Attorney General's body-worn camera directives were all considered when we put this together. We had an extensive review of this policy with the SPCP Council back in 2019, where we went over the entire policy with them, took their feedback into it, explained why some of the things were the way we did. One of the things that we've talked about the whole time was realistic expectations. And the best example of that is most people like to watch football games on a Sunday, professional football or any professional sport these days. And it comes down to when the ref blows the whistle and they've got to look at the video. And their options are to have dozens of cameras from every which angle to review a situation. And if you notice that sometimes there is not a definitive answer, even though they've got cameras in every part of that stadium, close-ups, far back, you name it. And they'll break it down and they'll go back and forth. They'll take that clip, they'll go 1 second, 2 seconds, back and forth. They'll keep looking at it. And sometimes even the best professionals can't tell. We're relying on one camera that hangs from the uniform. It's not being directed. There's no sound man there. There's no lighting experts. We're relying on a very simple form of body-worn camera. So we must have realistic expectations of what they can do. Fortunately, we know that our use of complaint numbers have gone down, and I said this in private. Could be two theories there. One, the officers have become better, or two, the citizens aren't making false reports. Either way, the result is we're operating much better because of body-worn cameras. I know I wanted to keep this quick. We have a couple quick videos. The first one is after the end of the first year, we decided we wanted to do like a little 2-minute video, a bunch of clips. They're going to come at you fast, and I don't want to narrate all of them, but I'm going to tell you that they started the first week that we had the body cameras. We're going to see a car, individuals taken out of the car, the driver still in the driver's seat. You're going to see the gun with the extended magazine on it. You're going to see some foot chases in the daylight and at dark of people with guns as we chase them. You'll see that policemen aren't always doing police work. You're going to see a visitor to Erie have a heart attack right here on State Street. Officers ran out with AED to try to help them. You're going to see some funny moments. For anybody that's really tall, I know there's a couple kids I met last week on Snack Patrol are here. Some of you guys are really tall. Watch out for low-hanging branches. But let's watch this about 2-minute clip. Missing the sound. Frank, we're working on trying to get sound on this. This is simply an officer in the first week of getting the camera. He's holding the door for a woman to get into her house. He pulls the screen door a little bit too far. It ends up hitting her in the head. And he's apologizing. She's very good about it. She goes, "I've actually done it myself." And he goes, "Oh, great. My supervisor's going to see this because it's on body cam." That was like the first week, or it may have even been the first day that we had these. A gun. He's got a gun in his pocket, just told the officer. This isn't body-worn camera, but it was footage we threw in there of some of the houses we've had to go into. You see the ambulance is just pulling up. That was the tire. That's the driver, still with the bag, trying to get away. That was what was in the bag. Gun. Here's another gun after a foot chase at 10th and State. The mayor loved this one. I told him sometimes people actually lie about police. That's my favorite. I swear to God, he punched me in the face. He punched me in the face. It was the first week, and the officer that made the arrest all of a sudden realizes, hey, I got a body camera. Guess what? That individual never made a complaint. But had anyone else just heard it, would you might have believed that the officer punched him in the face? Clearly didn't happen. But that was kind of just a quick summary of our body cam footage from the first year. We'll see what kind of footage we come out with the next year. I do have 2 videos. These were just released recently. This is involved officers last weekend. I think I sent some information out to you that were involved in an incident where individual got out of the car and began shooting at officers. We've got that video because I don't know that everybody's been able to see that. So we're going to show which one you want to do first. All right, let's go with the state car. State cars going down, they see a vehicle come out of a parking lot kind of quick. They think it might be a DUI. They're trying to pull up to catch up to it. You'll notice that their emergency lights are not on, and this car just suddenly stops on its own. It's not being pulled over. See how far back? They're about a block behind this car, and it'll just stop. You'll see go ahead, Chris. You'll see flashes coming from the passenger side because he gets out of the car. It takes off. The troopers will start pursuing it. There's a city police car coming up to the intersection at 18th and Chestnut. This car is going to go speeding by him. If you listen closely here, you'll hear some of the gunshots. Okay, and then we'll show you the view from the city police car. That's their car camera. And this will be the car camera from our vehicle. On 18th, he's approaching Chestnut when this car will go racing by him. He does not know what just happened. He just sees his car speeding by, happens to get in front of the state police car in the pursuit. Go ahead. Sees the car go by, turns his lights on. You can see the flashing begin. The sound will come on. Suspects crashed their car. A pillar of the car is that pillar in your car between your windshield and your driver's door. Bullet hit the A pillar of his car and hit the back door to his car. We know that rounds from those shots entered a house, and that one of the bullets was in the bedroom of an 11-year-old boy. We've been able to identify both. We have active warrants. We're searching for those two individuals. But again, that was just something that one of our officers, it didn't have to be state police. It could have been one of our other cars. It did not matter to these individuals. They did not want to be stopped by the police that night. And unfortunately, those are some of the real situations the officers face out there. And although these weren't body cam, it was part of the car cam. We started our initial body cams with 12 police cars. I think we've doubled it now to about 24 of our marked frontline units now have those cameras. They're expensive. We're probably getting close to $2 million for a 5-year program. $2 million spread out over 5 years. And they just continue to get more expensive. But obviously, well worth it. That's my presentation on the body cams and car cams. If you have any questions, we'd be glad to try to answer.
Yeah, I have a quick question. Do you have the capability of communicating with the state police when they're inside the city limits? Is there a common channel or something that is made available so if you are assisting or being assisted that you can communicate effectively?
It can be done through the dispatch. It takes a minute or so, but on a daily basis, no. But once the patch is made, yes, we can.
Any other questions?
I'd just like to thank the chief and Nolan for a great presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're looking for ideas for future presentations. One of the things I think it would be helpful at some point is to invite the district attorney here to talk about the new program for being able to register your personal security cameras with the DA's office. I think we saw, well, I shouldn't say, I know we saw in the quick investigation of the shooting in Highland Park the other day that in addition to having that gun registered to be able to trace the suspect, there were a lot of requests for cell phone cameras and also security cameras. So I haven't invited the DA yet, but I think that might be something useful to let people know how you get registered. You know, what does it mean if you do that? So that's one idea I have, and I've been keeping a list of other ideas. So if anybody has ideas of things you'd like to know more about, please let us know, and we will continue to add to our presentation topics. Thank you. So Lori, repository sales now, is that correct?
We have at least one person, Mr. Heidelberg, to speak on a repository, if you'd want to come up. There's some questions at the podium. Is there a piece of paper there?
Yeah.
Make sure you could answer all those. State your name and address, please.
Donald Heidelberg, 1848 East 6th Street, Erie, PA, 16511.
The property that you're talking about.
The property I'm concerned with is on Chautauqua Boulevard. It's about 5 blocks away from my house. The property is vacant. I planned on just landscaping it and putting a little fence up on the property lines. I have some landscaping equipment, trucks, to effectively keep it not being an eyesore.
Do you have a maintenance plan?
Yeah, I have my own landscaping equipment, you know, that I can landscape the property with myself. Plan on doing that and putting up a little white vinyl fence.
Do you have an intention for the property?
Not right offhand. Just take it off the eyesore list and make it look good.
Are there any questions from any council members for Mr. Heidelberg?
Yeah, one quick question. Did you say you were going to store your equipment on the property?
No,
Okay.
no. Not going to store anything. I'm just going to put a fence up and beautify it. All he puts a couple of little flower beds in front of the fence.
Thanks.
Yep.
Love hearing that the neighborhood's going to be more beautiful.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else to speak on a repository? Any other repository bidders? Any other repository bidders? Madam President, this takes us to citizens to be heard.
And Lori, we have one person who signed up in advance, is that correct?
Yes, is Mr. Williams here? Mr. Williams wanted to talk about parking near his residence.
And he's not online, right, Frank? No. Okay. Okay.
Any other public comments? Please state your name and address.
Hi, my name is Cole Shenley. I live at 615 Ohio Street. I appreciate council's time. Just had a few things to say. I spoke at the last meeting, and I know that I was very passionate how I spoke. I don't particularly appreciate how I was responded to afterwards. I actually would like to give credit. I know I spoke about the police hires or whatnot. I wanted to give credit to the officer out there. I believe he's a police officer. He was very kind to me afterwards to make sure that I was okay. But I don't appreciate the reference to my mental health. And I say that because I actually do struggle with mental health issues. And I go to a psychiatrist, and I'm in between therapists right now, but I've tried a variety of different medications. And that comes out of a lot of the trauma that I've experienced as a person growing up. Violence, we talk a lot about violence in the community right now, but violence in my life has never been an abstraction. For anybody who doesn't know, and some of the people on council kind of know some of my story, but not everybody does, and not everybody in this room does. But I grew up with a dad who had a lot of demons and was in and out of my life when I was a kid, and a mom that, really amazing woman, but she was a single mom for part of my life. Eventually, my dad was able to overcome a lot of the demons he struggled with, and came back into my life when I was kind of going from grade school into middle school and whatnot. But when I was growing up, a lot of my friends were the children of my dad's like running buddies, and my mom's really close friends were the wives of those men. And I've come a long way. I'm 39 years old, and I manage a small business. I'm involved in my community. I do a lot, but not everybody I came up with made it. There was a friend of mine from when I was a kid. He was murdered last year. It's a pretty big news story. He was murdered outside of a club. I've had a bunch of friends that have overdosed from drugs. It's really hard when you think about growing up, and I've had so many saints in my life, so many angels, people that have looked out for me. I was able to be who I am today not because of some traveling propaganda show like PAL, which is not any of this garbage, but because there's a strong social safety net, and because my community was there for me. Because there were programs that my mom was able to get on, like Section 8 housing, that were able to provide us with a safe place to live. There were programs that my dad was able to enter into to be able to overcome the demons in his life. I don't hate the police, and I don't want the city to be in some state of chaos. I truly believe in public safety, and I think that there are any number of amazing officers in this city that want to do a good job. But I would point out that this is not just an issue in Erie, but an issue nationwide, so much so that we have prestige TV dramas right now that are talking about this issue. You could go on HBO Max and you could watch We Own This City, which talks about the very real story of police corruption in Baltimore. And I would point out that it's not an anti-police program, because the people behind it are, at least in one case, is a former police officer. And when they show you the story that goes on here, there are police in this program, even though it's a fictionalized account of this, it's based in real life, and they talk very much about the problems of the bad police in their departments. And the structure, the messed up structure that causes this stuff to go on, that we even need body cameras and things like that to make sure that police are doing their job properly. I wanted to quote a couple things. There's a writer that I follow online, Alec Karakhan-Sanis, writes a lot about police and media and city government. And he just put out a piece, is that my 5 minutes? Hey, that's cool. Come back with it. Next time.
Good morning. My name is Barry Clark. I live at 2035 East 19th Street, and you guys see me before, you're going to see me again. I commend you on the work that you're doing on beautifying the city of Erie, but as a resident, I don't see no work in my neighborhood. Thank you.
Good morning. Good morning. My name is Adrian Ewing. I live at let me set this down. I live at 2131 East 19th Street in Erie, Pennsylvania. The reason I'm coming in this morning is in regard to a change.org petition that we began circulating last week. So I just want to read you guys the petition. On Thursday, April 14th, 2022, Antonio Espen Romels Yarger Jr. was playing near his home on Downing Avenue in Erie, Pennsylvania, when he was senselessly shot in a drive-by shooting. He died 4 days later on Monday, April 18th, 2022. He was just 7 years old. His death shocked our entire community, his community, and in so many ways shattered the innocence and peace of something as simple as children playing outside freely and without fear in their own neighborhood. While we may never truly understand why this happened, what we do know as a city is that change is needed more now than ever, and that together we are the solution. This petition is just the first step in ensuring that the city of Erie never forgets young Espen or what his life and passing meant to the people of our city. But also, what it calls for will forever serve as a reminder of innocence lost and the need to always protect our children first and foremost. That as our single greatest asset, they deserve only the best from us. This petition hereby calls on Erie City Council and Mayor Joseph Schember to rename the portion of Downing Avenue from East 18th Street to Fairmont Parkway, formally to Espen Way. I want to read a little bit the follow-up for this. Now that this petition has been verbally entered into the public record, I would like to thank all of those who have already signed the petition and continue to do so for supporting this truly heartfelt change. I believe that this is a small but significant step in the process of healing for Espen's mother, grandparents, particularly his grandmother, godmother, siblings, cousins, aunts, uncles, friends, classmates, and all those who were touched by his life and tragic passing. The greatest honor of my life was being born into the Ewing family of Erie, Pennsylvania. Our family has lived in this city for the better part of a century now and has resided in the area of the city between Espen Way and Franklin Avenue for nearly 50 years. It has always been and will forever remain our commitment to be the best people, parents, and citizens we can be. I thank each and every one of you who will watch this video and each and every one of you on City Council for standing vigil over my niece, especially after losing her beloved son, Espen. And I pray that this gesture of community spirit and love offers comfort to her whole soul. Espen, you will forever be in our hearts, and while you may have been taken from this life early, yours is a legacy that will live on for generations of Erieites to come. God bless you, young king. Because this petition was a petition on change.org, or digital petition, it will be transmitted to each member of City Council in the next coming days the same way for your consideration. I thank you all for taking the time to hear what I had to say this morning, and God bless you all. Thank you.
Thanks, Adrian.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Madam President, I would like to sponsor that resolution.
Thanks, Mel. Any other citizens to be heard, or people to be heard, I should say? Any other members of the community to be heard?
Good morning, council, administration, and the other elected officials. My name is Gary Horton, 2046 East 19th Street. First of all, I'd like to thank Lieutenant Lennox and the police chief, Biznarny, and Michael Outlaw team who came to our neighborhood a week ago today, so that our youth, many of who are here this morning, would have an opportunity to meet them and to see that all police are not bad, and to start or continue a relationship that they might also learn to appreciate that all kids are not bad. And we are here this morning on behalf of the Reverend Ernest Franklin Smith Quality of Life Learning Center and the Eastside Grassroots Coalition to say that we came here this morning to stand up for the majority of youth who are not bad. We think it's a false narrative in our community, and we do ourselves a disservice when we focus on that narrow group of youth who create mischief. And we believe that in addition to that imbalance, it reveals that there is an imbalance in the investment in youth in our community. We're here this morning to ask you to support resolution number 2 put forth by the administration under new business that allows us to employ some 91 youth to date, including these who sit before you right now. We believe that the majority of youth just want an opportunity to earn some money and to learn, to stay busy, to have fun doing those kind of things. And all too often there's not enough focus or investment in them. And if they can do that while providing a service for the neighborhood or the community, thus demonstrating to the residents and citizens in our neighborhood the point that we make again, that all youth are not bad, and that many youth are just looking for an opportunity again to earn and to learn. We all know that COVID has had as great an impact on youth as it has had on anyone, on any business, and on any other interest in our community. Yet, we're investing a disproportionate amount of money into everything but the youth. We say all too often they're our future. No, folks, they're our present. They're our right now. They've been impacted by COVID as much as anyone. Pre-pandemic data that you already have demonstrate persistent, pervasive poverty amongst youth of color in Erie, Pennsylvania for generations. You have an opportunity with ARP and other policies that you could make that would demonstrate that you recognize that and you would invest in resources to mitigate that. COVID relief and reinvestment in youth to date is inadequate. It's not enough, especially for the challenges that youth face in our community and the amount of resources that you have or had available to you under ARP. So again, we came here to ask you to support resolution number 2. It has a direct impact on our agency and these youth in particular, providing them an opportunity to work, earn a few dollars, clean up our neighborhood, save money for some back-to-school clothes or supplies, and help the family. So our challenge is for you to also create more opportunities to invest in youth. Thank you, and God bless you in your deliberations.
This is Freda. This is Freda Tepfer. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, Freda.
Freda Tepfer, 1738 West 23rd Street, Erie, Pennsylvania. You know, I don't ever have to give my address at county council. I really wish you folks had a different policy about this. Anyway, thank you for an opportunity to talk to you. I guess I was expecting something a little bit different in a presentation titled "A Safer Community Begins with Me," but what we got is what we got. And I have a feeling that there are body cam footage of people that aren't of color doing things, as well as there are people of color. One thing I would like to ask the city, one of the, you know, as we know, traffic stops have been a huge contributor to police-caused homicides, killings. And one of the solutions proposed is, rather than having a traffic stop for a simple citation, a suspected thing wrong with the car, that you take a picture of the license plate and you mail the person a citation. And that would reduce a lot of the incidents of the kind of frenzy and room for error that occurs with a traffic stop. And I really want to urge the city to look seriously at that kind of policy. I appreciate the idea of doing presentations. So I just want to remind people that this is the last day that the bike plan is going to be available for public comment. I suggest people look at it and ask themselves if there's actually room on some of these streets for these bike lanes. Next Friday, the 15th, is the last day, I think it's the 15th, that the stormwater pollution prevention plan is available. Oh no, that's the day, sorry, that's the day that there's a public meeting in room 500 of City Council, and the plan is available until August 4th. I suggest people look at it, but maybe that's something that there could be a presentation at the City Council meeting about what's actually in the plan. So I would also like to hear more about what is the city doing to take the park department function out of the engineering department. The engineering department is really not the appropriate place for the parks department to reside. It should be either in planning or a standalone department. Once again, there's something on your agenda for Baldwin Park and the takeover by the pickleball courts. There has never been any consultation with members of this neighborhood, Baldwin Park neighborhood, that about this park and how they've taken over the park and how they're managing impacts to pedestrian access and stuff from the pickleball. I also wanted to mention that on this agenda, there's one person from California is buying 10 of the repository sales. I didn't get a chance to map them out, but I am concerned that that's a lot of one person, not even from Erie, buying the repository sales. And lastly, I'm going to resend to some of you a document I wrote, just an email, about what would I suggest that if you are going to go through and approve the IRG plan, what the city could do and what to improve the project, how the potential impacts to traffic, congestion, pedestrian safety, how some of those things could be mitigated if that plan is going to happen anyway. So I encourage my fellow residents to stay involved in the city And I have had some very good working relationships with people like the traffic engineer. So if you're knowledgeable about a particular area, really work at establishing with a rapport with people in the city. Thank you.
Thanks, Freda. It looked like, was there some other people in the audience who wanted to speak before we did our online guest? Anybody else?
Good morning. My name is Abdiaziz Mine. I live 1821 Thompson Street. So I have been working 6 years coaching for the children. So the children, they need to keep busy when the school they closed, and then when the snow coming. So both time, the kid they doing something outside or something. So Gary Holden and I, we busy about for the kid to do how to keep the busy, coaching, and then walking. So sometimes I don't have any for the kid, some place to training, or I don't have good field. So I need more help. Gary Holden and I, we're running about how to keep the busy for the children. That's why today I'm talking Erie City. Thank you very much.
Sir, could you sign in at the back, your name and address, please? There's a sign-in sheet by the door behind you. Thank you.
Gary, are you looking for somebody else who wants to speak, do you think? Is there somebody else who wants to speak?
We do encourage them to hear their voice.
Okay. Did any of them go on the...
little intimidated, but...
On the Black History Walk?
Anyone want to say anything? Ladies?
Did anybody go on the tour that might want to inform the community?
Come on. What you told. Come on. Come on. As these three young ladies come to the mic, they asked me on Tuesday that I believe in gender equality. And I asked them, what was that? What is that? Because we serve many different cultures in our community. And they said equal boys and equal girls. And I said, yes, ladies. I have a daughter and 6 sisters. I said, yes. And then they asked me, well, why can't girls cut grass?
Wow.
Why can't girls cut grass? I learned a very valuable lesson that day from them. We trained them that day, and they are cutting grass.
Yay.
Okay. Only because they stood up and said something.
Thank you, girls. So come up and then state your name and your address, okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Rama. I live on 2026 East 18th Street. I feel like if we didn't have this program, like a lot of kids would be out doing bad stuff. The money I get from this program, it doesn't go towards me. I give it to my mom. Like, she pays for my siblings, what's it called? School supplies, everything. And we also like send money back home to my family that live in Africa. So I feel like the program helps me a lot every summer. And I also wish it went on longer towards out like the school year, like when school begins, like after school, like I could go there because I live right next to it. Hi, my name is Nira, and I live on 1851 Glendale Avenue. I like this program because it helps a lot of us be busy during the day, like not go out there doing bad stuff. We earn money from it. We learn new stuff. Every day, Mr. Horn helps us he helps us to learn how to listen to our voices. It helps us in a lot of ways. I don't know how to explain it, but yeah, thank you. Hi, my name is Tagis. I live on.
Well, put the microphone down just a little bit so we can. Okay, thank you.
Hi, my name is Tagis. I live on 19th Street. And what I like about this program, it helps us learn some stuff, a lot of them.
Thank you very much. And now that you've done it, we hope you come back for many meetings and add your voices to those we need to hear. Thank you. All right, so now this will be, I guess, the last call. Anybody else want to speak?
If you guys wouldn't mind signing in the back as well.
Back by where those yellow papers are, there's a
muffled.
sign-in sheet, okay? Thanks, girls.
You can just put the urban area address down for your address.
Yeah, I'm not even including those. I don't know their age.
Okay, Lori, I think we're ready to move on.
Ordinances for final passage. Council file number 16293, official ordinance number 34, 2022, an ordinance appropriating the sum of $17,364.34 from unappropriated and anticipated revenue received as loan processing fees with the Enterprise Zone Revolving Loan Fund. Sponsored by Mr. Nelson, seconded by Mr. Keys. The council file ordinance number 16293 and now known as official file ordinance 34, 2022 be finally passed by City Council. Mr. Brzezinski, Ms. Flores, Mr. Keys, Mr. Nelson, Mr. Troop, Mr. Witherspoon, Ms. Allen. City Council passed official file ordinance 34, 2022 by yeas 7, nays 0. Council file number 16294, official ordinance number 35, 2022, an ordinance appropriating the sum of $24,157.40 from unappropriated and anticipated revenue received as loan processing fees with the Business Development Revolving Loan Fund. Sponsored by Mr. Nelson, seconded by Mr. Brzezinski. The council filed ordinance number 16294, now known as official file ordinance 35, 2022, be finally passed by City Council. Mr. Brzezinski, Ms. Flores, Mr. Keys, Mr. Nelson, Mr. Troop, Mr. Witherspoon, Ms. Allen. City Council passed official file ordinance 35, 2022 by yeas 7, nays 0. Council file number 16295, official ordinance number 36, 2022, an ordinance appropriating the sum of $200,000 from unappropriated and unanticipated revenue for the expenditure thereof. The funding is from the Green Mountain Energy Company for the Central Firehouse Solar Project. Sponsored by Mr. Nelson, seconded by Mr. Brzezinski. The council file ordinance number 16295, and now known as official file ordinance 36, 2022, be finally passed by City Council. Mr. Brzezinski, Ms. Flores, Mr. Keys, Mr. Nelson, Mr. Troop, Mr. Witherspoon, Ms. Allen. City Council passed official file ordinance 36, 2022, finally by yeas 7, nays 0. Council file number 16296, official ordinance number 37, 2022, an ordinance appropriating the sum of $10,862.60 from unappropriated and unanticipated revenue for the expenditure thereof. This contribution is from the AIM Recycling Erie from recycled metal to be used for chemical cleanup. Sponsored by Mr. Nelson, seconded by Mr. Brzezinski. The council file ordinance bill number 16296 and now known as official file ordinance 37, 2022 be finally passed by City Council. Mr. Brzezinski, Ms. Flores, Mr. Keys, Mr. Nelson, Mr. Troop, Mr. Witherspoon, Ms. Allen. City Council passed official file ordinance 37, 2022 finally by yeas 7, nays 0. Ordinances for first reading. Council File Number 16297, an ordinance appropriating the sum of $350,000 from unappropriated and anticipated revenue to be received from a Pennsylvania State Recycling Grant, Act 101 grant, and providing for the expenditure thereof. Sponsored by Mr. Nelson, seconded by Mr. Troop. Council File Number 16297, having been read, is hereby adopted on first reading by City Council.
Madam President, I have a question, if I may.
Sure.
Is this the one where they're going to be putting those bins out there and people can put glass into them? I was on TV yesterday, so many of them flying around. My concern, unfortunately, is there's people that will take advantage of that. Maybe we should do something very quickly to increase the fine for anybody throwing garbage into these recycling bins. You know, I know there's, Blessed Sacrament has the glass bins in the back of their church. They have them in different places. And the people are very good about putting clear glass, green glass, whatever in these. But if the thing we saw on TV yesterday, if they were showing the bins that this company is going to put out there, we have to have a pretty strict reinforcement on it. Otherwise, we're going to have people using that as a dumping ground. Chuck, I throw that to you because you're the man there.
I'm not sure which the news one was. I didn't catch it. So I mean, there's a couple different companies that are doing glass right now. One of them has you sort. One of them does it streamlined. And I wasn't sure if it's all during committee report. I'll be talking about the pilot that's rolling out, but I'm not familiar with the particular news story you're talking about.
Okay. Just the fact that they're going to have open bins in different areas, I just want to make sure that we. So all the police need is another job to look at bins that should be filled with glass, but there should be a real eye-opening idea for the people out there who might think of violating the principles that we're trying to save money on.
Yeah, I mean, so this is on first reading. This isn't in regards to the this is not in regards to the pilot that we're rolling out this month. So I'll look into that further by the next reading for the final reading.
We're covered.
Thanks, Seth.
Okay.
This was seconded by Mr. Keys. Mr. Brzezinski, Ms. Flores, Mr. Keys, Mr. Nelson, Mr. Troop, Mr. Witherspoon, Ms. Allen. Council File Ordinance Number 16297, having been read, is hereby adopted on first reading by City Council. Council read and adopt 16297 by yeas 7, nays 0 on first reading. Council File Number 16298, an ordinance appropriating the sum of $750,000 from unappropriated and unanticipated revenue for the expenditure thereof from the sewer fund balance and will be used to pay for repair parts and supplies at the wastewater treatment plant. Sponsored by Mr. Nelson, seconded by Mr. Keys, the Council File Ordinance Number 16298, having been read, is hereby adopted on first reading by City Council. Mr. Brzezinski, Ms. Flores, Mr. Keys, Mr. Nelson, Mr. Troop, Mr. Witherspoon, Ms. Allen. City Council read and adopt Council File Ordinance Number 16298 by yeas 7, nays 0 on first reading. Madam President, this takes us to new business.
Madam President, I move the balance.
Second.
Okay. Separations. Lori, I'm going to separate number 1 for an appointment just to explain about that.
Number 2 on new business.
So number 1, number 2. Others?
Any other separations?
Separate number 3 to 11. You can separate them as a group.
The repositories? Any other separations? Moving the balance of the agenda. Mr. Brzezinski, Ms. Flores, Mr. Keys, Mr. Nelson, Mr. Troop, Mr. Witherspoon, Ms. Allen. Number 1 in new business, that Colin Russ, 328 West 6th Street, 16507, be appointed to the Planning Commission to fill the term of Armin Shemeni, which expired 12/31/21. Mr. Russ's term will run through 12/31/2025. This is received by the communication from the mayor as his appointment to the Planning Commission, and received by City Council, and the vote will be to confirm it.
Thanks, Lori. I just wanted to separate this because at the last council caucus, I wanted to make sure the council members knew when we have appointments coming up that are council appointments, I'm keeping an eye on them so I can make sure that the liaisons play a key role in that. Colin has been an alternate on the Planning Commission, but my name is on this and Michael's name is on this. This is a mayoral appointment. I didn't want council colleagues to think I was like jumping ahead and trying to hog appointments or anything. But anyhow, this is a good, thoughtful person for the Planning Commission. So that's all. Just wanted to make sure it was clear. Thanks, Lori, for your explanation also.
Voting on the resolution, Mr. Brzezinski, Ms. Flores, Mr. Keys, Mr. Nelson, Mr. Troop, Mr. Witherspoon, Ms. Allen. Resolution passes, yea 7, nay 0. Number 2, sponsored by Ms. Allen, seconded by Mr. Keys. Resolved by the Council of the City of Erie that the DECD Project Review Team approval of the following Community Development Initiative ARP grants be formally ratified. Urban Erie Community Development Corporation, $125,000. Odessa's Place, $44,800. Youth Literacy Project, $54,800. Empowered Life Youth Summer Program, $65,000. These funds have been made available by the City of Erie American Rescue Plan Funded Community Development Initiative Fund. Council further directs the proper city officials to sign and authorize necessary documents and agreements effectuating the same. Discussion?
Yeah, Madam President, I just wanted to ask about me voting for this one because my mother is involved, owns one of those places. So I wanted to see how I should proceed with this.
Just to be safe, I would suggest, given that you would abstain.
Thanks, Mr. Troop, and thank you, Ed.
I just have one question. Maybe in the future, I'm sure the majority of this money is going to be going directly to the kids, but in the future, I'd like to see a breakdown to find out how much is going to the people that are running the program as opposed to money going to the kids, because that's where it should be going. Thank you.
And Ed, I had also suggested that it would be good to, I know a couple of us went to see the after-school program, and I thought during summer, I'm sure that any organizations that would invite council to drop by and see them in operation, that would be a welcome invitation. So it's a good way to, get our feet on the ground. So any other discussion?
I also wanted to know, just curiosity, how long these programs have already been in place, or are they new in response to the pandemic? I know that at least one of them has been around a little while, but I just wanted to know the timeline on these organizations. Because what's going to happen once the ARP funds are gone? How are we going to sustain ourselves to maintain the programs is where I'm concerned. I'm not against the funds going there. I just want to know how are we going to sustain them, because once we start something, it's going to be very hard to maintain it if we don't have funds for it later.
Mr. Horton's going to help us with that question.
Yes, our program is a completely new program. Most of these kids, if you're 14 years old and it's your first job, stand up. Okay, these kids would not have been employed in any other case. You can have a seat. So, to Mr. Brzezinski's question, most of this money is going into payroll for the kids. We have to have some administrative costs. If I'm getting ready to add 91 kids to my payroll, that creates all kinds of problems for me, or challenges for me, because you don't give me the money up front. I have to go get it from somewhere. They're looking to get paid on payday. And they don't understand that your money won't come till later. They want their money when they finish working, like all of us would. So all of these programs are in response to the administration's outreach for COVID response activities for youth. And that none of them are replications of something that someone else has going on. And when the money is gone, the program is gone. It's not like I'll lose a staff person over there because it doesn't provide me for a staff program. If that answers both of your questions.
We're on the same team, Gary. Just
I
want everybody else
understand.
to know
We
that.
appreciate your support, and we're trying to get you to do more, because we believe there are more kids like these out there. And if you put this approach together with what the police are doing, what your investment in police are, we think that we'll have a different kind of result than what we've been getting around the whole narrative about youth negative activity and that. So, but thank you.
Any other discussion? Voting on the resolution, Mr. Brzezinski, Ms. Flores, Mr. Keys, Mr. Nelson, Mr. Troop abstains, Mr. Witherspoon, Ms. Allen. Resolution passes yeas 6, abstention 1. Okay, the following proposed repository sales, known as 752, 754 East 7th, 721, 723 East 8th, 820 Wallace, 821 Ash, 548 East 8th Street, 1043 East 11th Street, 745 East 13th Street, 739 East 13th Street, and 438 East 17th Street. The proposed bidder is Zip Enterprises, LLC, 836 57th Street, Suite 566, Sacramento, California. Each bid of $250 per property is requested to be approved. Discussion?
Yeah, I just wanted to echo concern that someone who lives so far away would be buying so many properties within our city limits. I think it's a discussion that that this council needs to have, whether you're for or against it. and I'd welcome any other comment. So,
I'm personally not in favor of an outside person from another state coming in and buying up so much property because it takes it off the market for the community who's here to possibly buy it if they were aware of the opportunity. As a younger person, it took me getting involved in civic matters to be aware of what we have available to us with the right types of conversations. So I'm not necessarily in favor of so many properties going at one time. I want to look into possibly limiting a 4 to 5 cap purchase at a time, just because I don't know what all these properties look like, just going and seeing what it will map out to be later. Because we never really know, full disclosure, what the plans for later are until it's too late. So I'm not in favor of so many going to an outside person in a whole nother state.
Madam President, if I may, I agree with what's been said already. The problem I have is that most of these lots, if we look at the way the ordinances are written, if I'm not mistaken, are not buildable. In other words, there's not enough frontage on that lot. Now, I also know that the trends in real estate are to begin building on 0 lot lines. So is this what it's all about? Are people in California looking at us and saying, oh, pretty soon we're going to be dropping these little, the little houses? You ever see them on TV that they talk about, the little houses being built? Yeah. I think we're kind of foolhardy giving these away for $250 and not knowing where they're going or how they're going or when they're going. It's going to come back and haunt us, I think. It's too late to say no because we've been way down the line, but I think we should be a little bit more vigilant as far as what's going on. And I thought it was a 50-foot frontage. Betsy, you have that? Do you know that for sure? It used to be anyway.
I believe it's 35.
It's what?
I believe it's 35.
Nah, it was 35 when the 235 FHA houses were being built back in the 70s. But I think it was changed. I don't think you can put a house on 35 anymore. I don't know that for a fact.
If you'll remember, we had, when Amy came to our last, I think it was our last council meeting, or the previous one before that, had recommended that we possibly see if we can raise the amount of the minimum bid, but we can't do that with this. I think everybody raised a lot of good questions. I know that I think the Redevelopment Authority has been eyeing properties to make sure that they aren't being bought up by speculators. So there's a lot of good work being done by our professionals trying to figure out how to deal with this. And I just wanted to point out that the one property, we just received a memo from the solicitor about a different property that was part of this group that I think is not on the list. Correct, Ed? We don't have that one
That's correct.
Correct, for action today. So good questions, but ones we can't, I don't think, solve here today. But we should probably write up those issues and then see what kind of discussion we can have with the people within the city and the Redevelopment Authority that are, looking at how properties are being used. And I also believe, I'm going to ask Renee, I know that the city planner had been working on actually looking at revamps of our land use ordinances. So I'm sure that those questions are going to come up and will be addressed when we have a new city planner on board also, because we know we have to change with the times. So, Ed, is there something else you wanted to inform us about?
No, I think the memo that I gave you is at least somewhat helpful. I think sometimes we get, not intentionally, but we can be misled by thinking about what the dollar amounts are. And these properties are sitting vacant, nobody's using them, nobody's paying taxes on them. With the property that I did a memo on, there was talk about, well, I paid the taxes for a period of time and then I stopped. And we're talking about from 2009 all the way up to 2013, the city got $113. That's it. So that property was sold through the repository sale process. And since 2009, a property that was sold by repository sale, this city received a total of $113. That's it. And we agonize over what to do. And I'm not saying, I mean, the questions of do we sell it to outsiders or insiders, those are all legitimate questions. But a lot of times I think we, myself included, I think we're giving away, we're losing property tax revenue. We're not, unless those properties are developed, because they're plummeting down in terms of value at $250. There's very little revenue even when somebody acquires those properties. The only way that there will ever be dollar value coming back to us is if somebody builds something on those properties. And so Mr. Brzezinski raises the issue about setbacks and things of that sort. That's something we perhaps should look at. But I think what developers are doing is trying to find lots where they can combine them and then have the ability potentially to build. But if I buy 5 lots next to each other, we're not talking about a whole lot of money. And what often happens, this one was sold, the one I did the memo on was sold by a repository sale, but then the taxes stopped being paid. So we got $100, but there's $1,000 that we should have also got that we never did. And so now we're back in repository sale 2 in that property. And so it's a bit frustrating, but I just wanted you to understand, at least since we're talking about it, here's kind of an example of what the dollars are that would go to the city, and it's very, very low.
One thing that Mr. Betza pointed out, that we only get revenue if it's developed on. I mean, there's a number of things we could address to actually hit the systemic problems that we have on this. One of them that I've been harping on for a couple years now is that land value tax, that we can get taxes without it being developed on. Allentown did it in the mid-90s to address it. The vacancy registration that I've been talking about would help us address what's going on with these out-of-town guys that might not be able to keep up with maintenance. It would let us know who to contact. And then the third thing is developmental issues, like as you were talking about city planner position, taking a look at. There are solutions that have been discussed in our various conversations to address these things. It's just a matter of doing them, and we're not going to do them today before sending these properties off to the man from Sacramento that visited us last meeting.
Yeah, so, I'd just like to say for the record that there were a couple recommendations, from other places where the fee was raised. But I do think that we also may need to look at, a cap on repositories if we are going to change the ordinance. And so where we give you you say a test drive, you have 5 properties, how are you maintaining them? What are you doing with them? Are you improving them? And then, then you'll come get 5 more or something to that effect. That's all.
Madam President?
Yes?
Since we've had several repository requests from out of town, the Code Enforcement Office and Community Development Office have added into their letter that there is a requirement for local and out-of-town bidders to give the city a proposal of their maintenance. So they have to give us a contract. We do have one received. I just don't have it in front of me for Zip Enterprises.
Is it the screen grab of the Craigslist ad that he's posted?
No, it wasn't the Craigslist.
Okay.
He came back with another one.
Excellent.
And it's also in the letters from the county and the city that you have to find out the building codes, the requirements, if you plan to construct something, and that you will be, you have to maintain the property and do all of the qualifications required by a property owner if they live locally and out of town. So that's all in the letter. And then there's comments from the zoning department. There's a look to see if any of the properties or these property owners own other properties, if they owe the city any other money. The redevelopment authority has commented, code enforcement, and the Economic and Community Development Office. So that should all be in the packet for your review.
Thanks, Lori. And that came about because we realized there were some issues, and we really have to compliment code enforcement, I believe, and Lori for help, and Marilyn for, and Ed, everybody gets a compliment here, for really being assertive and aggressive in dealing with what we can do now to make sure that, and there may be improvements we need to make or changes, but everybody's really stepped up to try and make this process fair to everyone, but good for taxpayers and for the city. So obviously there's more work to be done, but we're moving in the right direction. Any other questions before we vote? And we're voting on them as a whole, correct, Michael? Okay, thank you.
Voting on the resolutions, Mr. Brzezinski? Ms. Flores?
No.
Mr. Keys? Mr. Nelson? Mr. Troop? Mr. Witherspoon? Ms. Allen? Resolutions pass, yeas 6, nays 1.
Now do we go to committee reports?
Yes, Madam President.
Okay. I'm not sure a lot of people don't want to relive the last meeting, but we finished very late that night, and I don't think we even had committee reports, but can we start with Mr. Brzezinski and go this way?
Fine, thank you. First off, Port Authority, 8th grade Tuesdays kicked off on Tuesday, and I had not been there. I had to watch my Tigers beat the Guardians twice, but that's another story. But all that aside, there's a whole lot going on there. The tall ships will be coming in August. We just filmed a movie down in Lampen Marina, a whole lot of good things. People are coming to see Wolves games. It was a wonderful, large capacity weekend, which was great. The kids, I call them kids, they're grown men playing baseball, but they're out there and they're doing a heck of a job. And when the seats are filled, the game is a whole lot more exciting for everybody. Those two things being said, I know Officer Nolan is a very private guy, but we don't meet again until the 20th of July, and he's going to be gone. Chief, did he sneak out on us? I think so. He did. Well, make sure you give him a kudos, and maybe we'll bring him back and give him the attaboy, because he's done a lot for us, like all of you have, and we welcome, is it Mr. Janis taking over? I'm sure he'll do as well a job, but Mike will be missed, definitely. I think that's all I have. Thank you.
Yep.
I'm the liaison for the EMTA, which they had their ribbon cutting on the 14th of June, which was really successful. My meeting with Mr. David Robinson went really well this past week that had occurred. He is going to be having a meeting with Liz and I in regards to the Greyhound no longer being with us. I guess it was bought out, and there's going to be more information coming down the pipeline soon, so I'll have more to update the community on in that aspect. We also will be having a seat to be appointed for the blighted property, so that's something that I will be working on with Liz, and hopefully people are going to be submitting their resume if they're interested in that. I believe I have a dinner coming up with One Table coming for their summer picnic, so that's going to be coming in the coming weeks, so I look forward to that. And I've been having sit-ins with the New American Council. Well, yeah. So I'll have more information as far as that because of the trip that I had in May for the Welcoming America. We're going to be trying to implement some of that stuff here in the city of Erie. So I'll keep everyone updated. And that is all.
Thank you. Michael?
Excuse me, Madam President, I forgot one thing.
Okay.
I should say it. I talked about how the money was being sent out for the kids. I did that because I had questions from the people. Everybody wants to know. The money does go to the kids, people. That's the folks who asked me questions, who left me voicemails. I brought it up for that fact, and I had Gary come up and let it be known. The kids get the money, the majority of the money. That's all I wanted to say there.
Okay, thank you. Michael.
Yeah, thanks for reminding me, Jasmine. I did attend the ribbon cutting for the EMTA. It was a very, very nice event. And then I hear they had a block party. I had to leave before the block party got too active. I attended there's a group out of the county that that is working on a consolidated parks plan, and so I attended that. I thought it was necessary that, you know, the city of Erie be represented in any plan that's planning in the county, which includes the city of Erie. That's all.
Thank you. Mr. Troop?
Madam President, I have no report today.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Witherspoon?
Thank you, Madam President. I just want to thank the administration, in particular AJ and his workers, Paul Lichtenwalter and his workers, for moving very expeditiously in trying to replace and/or repair the bank board that was shattered at the courts on East 19th Street. As of yesterday, it wasn't up, but they want to try to get it up today. It's a very thick piece of glass, and they felt that there's a vendor in the city that could possibly repair it. On the same level, we're hoping that we can replace it. I want to say thank you to Mr. Nick Scott Sr. The very next day, he gave me a call. He saw the situation on the news and called and offered to replace that bank board, which could be in the close to $1,000. It wasn't that much when we first got it, but it's about $1,000 right now. And we want to thank him for continuing to support Erie community and Erie youth. We have about 212 young youth, 9 to 16 that signed up to play on East 19th Street. We still have openings for Bayview. That count is down, and I'm not sure why, because there's a lot of kids in that area. But for the kids who signed up to play at Bayview, if we do not receive enough to create 2 teams in each division, they will be offered the opportunity to play on 19th Street, and I'll make that happen even if I have to expand the teams. Thank you, Madam President.
Mr. Nelson?
Yeah, thanks. I want to start the last meeting. I made a comment that was in levity and jest. I want to apologize to the mental health community for something I said at the end of last council meeting. Upon further reflection, what I said was inappropriate, so I wanted to open by apologizing. Second, in response to some of the community concerns, you know, when we hear reports about PAL and body cams, the community, whether we agree or disagree on various issues, those are things that the community called for and that we're seeing wins, so we can celebrate progress. A couple other things that were addressed: pedestrian access in Baldwin and the area that was canvassed. The Pickleball Association canvassed the immediate area around Baldwin Park. It may not have been far enough. I'll look into see how far exactly they canvassed. And the pedestrian access concerns were brought to Public Works a couple weeks ago. I did look, you asked me about that grant, and I have my notes on stuff. I just didn't recall it off the top of my head. That's in regards to composting. It's a state grant for our composting facility. So when we go through our notes and we get our memos, I remember thinking like, oh yeah, it's one of those quick box check kind of things, but it did not have to do with glass. The glass program that we're talking about, and I looked that up too while I was checking that, the news was about the stuff that we're doing for the feasibility study. So this is my actual committee as the public works stuff that I want to bring up. I had a chance to talk to AJ last week, and I thought he was joking when he was telling me how enthusiastic he is right now. He did it with such a tone that I thought he was like being condescending to me and like feigning enthusiasm. And then he said he actually is this enthusiastic about it. We're doing a feasibility study for glass and food composting these next 3 weeks. In partnership with Penn State Barron and a couple of our local recycling corporations, companies. And this is one of those things that I brought to them when we first took office. They talked about the expenses of it, and we found community interest to fund the whole program. The city isn't, as far as I recall, I don't think we're putting in a penny. We got the county to donate buckets. We've got 50 participants in the West Bayfront that'll be doing food and glass compost and glass recycling, and then in the West Bay in Frontier, so that we have varying economic perspectives being brought into this. Penn State Barron will be collecting this with students for free for the next 3 weeks. They will be writing a feasibility study so that we can address the increased tipping fees and understand if it's financially feasible to send out an extra truck on an extra route to offset some of the refuse increased costs that we've seen. This is like, this is, I think, the most exciting piece of work I've gotten to be a part of. We've had Sarah Peelman really working hard in the sustainability office. We've had Sam Mason up at Penn State Barron helping out a ton. We've had Prism Glass pitching in. We've got food composting. I can't remember the name of the company, which is to my shame. And then county planning department has provided a number of buckets, as well as a lot of the different various Lowe's, Home Depot, all of those types of companies. I don't remember which ones. I probably shouldn't be naming corporations. I'm not sure which ones. But all of the buckets were donated, and hopefully we could figure out how feasible it is to recycle glass curbside rather than just the places where they're dumping it, and see if that can help reduce our refuse fees. So I'm thrilled. It's coming up the next 3 weeks. I guess it was in the news. So just it's the most exciting thing I expect for my first year on council. Thank you.
Madam President?
Yes.
I'd like to also let you know that I received a phone call from an anonymous person. He wants to remain anonymous, that he was going to contribute some money toward replacing that glass as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mel. Okay, I actually have a couple of things here. Since Chuck is very excited about the recycling, I wish I had a little, I only have pop bottles. I guess I have to start drinking wine or something to put in my, yes, they are in the bucket. But in terms of responsiveness, if you'll remember, we had a gentleman here a couple of weeks ago talking about the traffic on East 12th, and I want to thank the chief and traffic engineering. There are signs now, at least I saw one on 12th Street, saying, this is how fast you're going, this is what the speed limit is. So finally got those signs up there, and I'm hoping that helps with traffic safety. Mel will follow up on Espin Way, and we'll want to make sure that we do that, put that on an agenda where we can see which family members would like to be here, so we can consult on that. If you'll remember, Johnny Johnson asked us about Charles Kennedy Jr. renaming part of West 7th Street in his honor. So I've been talking to Johnny about making sure we have that on a future agenda also. In terms of ARP funding, I think one of the things that would be really helpful, we've had access to the different documents, especially the graphics with where we call buckets. And I'm thinking now we have to go beyond buckets, or, you know, what are we building out there? So I've been trying to, for myself, kind of start with a timeline, because not only is City Council doing, or the city spending ARP money, but so is the school district and so is the county. So I don't know if there's a way to like be able to communicate with graphics or simple a flow chart where some of the money's going. I think that would help people to understand that, you know, if there's some mental health aspects or youth programs, who's contributing. And then I think the question who asked about, Jasmine asked, how do we sustain things? It might be good to know, hey, we are looking at this to make sure that, you know, we're looking for grants or something. Just forward thinking. I don't have that all figured out yet. I talked at caucus last time about trying to keep our eye on state legislation. I don't know if they finally passed a budget. Anybody know? But they blew their budget deadline. So I don't know what happened with this, but I brought this for Jasmine because she's on Blighted Property Review Committee. There is bipartisan legislation. I don't know what's going to happen with it, because once that budget's passed, that session will be over. But this is on whole home repairs to be able to give big chunks of money to get some stuff done. There is also legislation. Again, I don't know what happened with this. I think Chuck brought it to our attention about Reading chopping up some of those bad vehicles. You know what I mean, the annoying vehicles. So PA bill would allow seizing illegal dirt bikes and ATVs and fining riders. We know that we had complaints at our last session about how those are disrupting neighborhoods. So there was legislation on that. I don't know what happened with that, but I'm thinking that we need maybe a presentation. I don't know if this fits in under a Safe Community Begins With Me. The city solicitor has already previously given us some information about what's legal, what isn't illegal, so we need to keep our eye on that. Haven't forgotten about short-term rentals. Some of the people in Glenwood actually said that they understood that we've had a lot of stuff on our plate. I think when we have a new city planner on board, we need to take that back up. In terms of, I was going to say, since somebody mentioned what the Guardians and the Tigers playing, that I made the mistake last night on a Zoom with some college friends of saying that it was Bill Mazeroski night at PNC Park, and I forgot that these guys were Yankees fans, and they said they've been in therapy since 1960. That's a long time to not get over that Pirates World Series. Anyhow, Pirates won last night, but that allows me to segue into the fact that I did an intern lunch with the interns from the Erie Seawolves and some of the interns from City Hall, and we met at Bayview Park, and Johnny Johnson gave a presentation about the Pontiacs, because I thought it was important that the interns from other places knew about our history with Negro League baseball players here. And what was really nice is that I brought along mitts and balls, because you never know when you want to have a pickup game. And the interns went out and played catch on Pontiac Field afterwards. So it was a very nice thing, and we're going to be doing another lunch and hopefully have a few more interns from City Hall, and if any city council members want to come. I would have invited you, except I had to bring my own chairs to that. And I found 13 chairs in my house, and there were 13 people there. But I think the next one we'll do will be at Perry Square. So that's, I think, everything on my, one more thing, electric vehicles. You've talked about that a number of times. We will have a presentation in August about a possibility of starting an environmental advisory council, which would really be helpful in looking at that and many other environmental and sustainable issues. So I will keep you informed on that.
Madam President,
Yes.
I just wanted to publicly thank, in regards to Espen Way, when that happened, you guys know that I play in a band, and we made a plea on our Facebook page to collect items for the family. And when other bands saw that, about 10 other bands got on board, and they did the same thing at their gigs. And they delivered all the items to me, and we were able to deliver that to the family. So I want to publicly thank all those musicians and Erie community members who donated towards that. So.
Thank you, Mo. All right, so Lori, do we go to Teresa next? Is that right? Am I going the right order?
I don't have a report. Next month we'll have an aggregate board meeting, so we'll be able to review our pension plans at that point in time. So I'll have something.
Thank you,
then.
Teresa. Okay. Segue to.
I have nothing.
Kathy, do you have anything to? Okay. And now Renee.
Good morning, everyone. Just a few updates. One, I wanted to recognize Lieutenant Tom Lennox, who's here with us this morning. Last 2 weeks, ran a very successful PAL program, week in cooperation with the Boys and Girls Club, and then last week, the second annual Junior Police Academy, which was very exciting for those students who were involved. They got to go to the county and meet with the DA. They met with county and juvenile probation. They met with the coroner's office. They met with the sheriff's office. They came here and met with the different units at City Hall, and the Erie Police Department learned about all the different departments we have here, and actually got to go out to the Northeast Municipal Police Training Academy and run an obstacle course and do some of the simulations that the cadets do. So it was a very exciting week for them. I also want to make sure everyone knows that the 814 summer concerts are starting this Sunday and Monday. So this will be, first of all, the first ever 814 concert series. Will run Sunday evenings from July 10th until 814 Day, August 14th. At 4 o'clock, we'll start with Drum Circle with One World Tribe. And then at 6 o'clock, there will be a local band playing. So the first one is July 10th at Bayview Park, West 2nd and Cherry Streets, for those who aren't aware where that is. Again, the Drum Circle starts at 4 o'clock, and then the Eilers go on at 6 o'clock. And I want to thank Public Works and Aaron Lonke for all their work setting these up and getting the bandwagons there and making all the arrangements. The next one, it will be at Franklin Park at East 7th and Marne. Again, Drum Circle at 4 o'clock and the Breeze Band at 6 o'clock. And there will be 6 of these in total, 6 in Westside Parks and 3 in Westside Parks and 3 in Eastside Parks. And then in addition, we have the Sounds of Summer concert series starting. We were on hiatus because of COVID. The first one is Monday, July 11th at Mercy Terrace Apartments, 430 East Grandview Boulevard. At 7 p.m., the Rooftop Project will go on. And then on July 18th, the Regency at South Shore at 322 Washington Place, 7 p.m., the Bayfront Dixieland Band. All of the dates, places, and bands are available on our website, which is 814concerts.com. And then I wanted to let you know that Love Your Block Erie is still accepting grant applications for the Community Project mini grants. The deadline to submit an application is July 13th. People can access the application at cityof.erie.pa.us/LYB grants. That's Love Your Block. We've gotten a lot of interest so far, and we have some really exciting projects coming up, most notably on East Avenue. We're collaborating with Serve Erie on a project that will take place at the end of July, and we've shared that to social media as well for those who want to get involved in that specific project. Also this Friday, Johnny Johnson is getting the word out about the Restore the Legacy of Harry T. Burley event, July 8th from 5 to 7 p.m. at the Erie Playhouse. and they're going to be celebrating the archival work being undertaken by Dr. Walter Greason, who's a preeminent historian, educator, and urbanist, as he shares the work that he's doing assessing, cataloging, and digitizing the historic information. So that there's a social hour at 5 o'clock, and a catered dinner. Catered by dinner is served by Lisa and the 710 Cafe. And then, let's see, just a couple more things. The Strategic Consulting Partners was here in Erie a couple of weeks ago. They conducted several focus groups and interviews with key stakeholders, with staff, and they are now moving on to the next phase of the study, which is benchmarking with other Pennsylvania municipalities. And so that's the next phase, and then they'll be working on their report and recommendations. And finally, Bruce Katz will be in Erie on this Thursday and Friday. We're continuing to work on the Erie Inclusive Investment Playbook, and we have our current draft of the playbook. It will be an evolving playbook as projects are done and funded. New projects will come on. But basically, this was an effort to get all of us on the same page with what our priorities are based on the various plans that we've done, the community outreach that we've done, looking at how we can leverage local funding to go after additional federal and state money to get funding for implementation. And so we have several meetings scheduled for Thursday and Friday to get the word out about that. That's all I have.
think there's one on Friday at the Jefferson. Is that?
Yes.
Anybody can sign up for that? I can't remember.
I don't remember either.
Okay.
You guys were invited for Thursday.
Yeah, we some of us are on the Thursday one. Michael Moe and I are going to the Thursday one.
I know there's one that's going to stream publicly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. Is there anything else for the good of the order? Anybody else? Okay.
City Council adjourn at 10:58 a.m. Ms. Allen, Mr. Brzezinski, Ms. Flores, Mr. Nelson, Mr. Troop, Mr. Witherspoon.